The cost of the Queensland floods is expected to run into the billions. Professor Ed Blakely is an expert in disaster preparedness and recovery. He played a leading role in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. He joins us now from Sydney. Professor Blakely, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a very basic question, I guess, but where do you begin?
Well, you begin where they're beginning now, fixing roads, putting the power in, putting basic infrastructure in, but you do not let people move into their homes until the homes have been fully inspected and habitable.
From your experience, how long did that take with Hurricane Katrina? As I understand it, there are parts of New Orleans that still aren't inhabited.
Well, that's not because they're not inhabitable, that's because people have chosen not to return. But it's very important that people not go into a house unless it's been inspected by a proper house inspector, because you could turn on the gas or the electricity and blow up an entire neighborhood.
Did you find many of those sorts of problems in the aftermath of Katrina?
Oh, yes. But we had a very, very good inspection system, and a few people came in on their own, and it caused some problems. So I think we should be cautious about letting people just move back in willy-nilly. Obviously, there's some areas that weren't flooded, and those people should be able to go back immediately.
One of the things that, of course, any government would have to consider after an event like this is the areas in which people live. Now, they know that from the 1974 floods that these areas are flood-prone. Without doing something to flood-proof them, what sort of attitude should a government take when it's telling people to move back into their homes?
Well, there are two issues here. One of them is an area that's flood-prone is going to be flooded again. Nature takes its course, and with climate change, this is going to be more frequent. The other issue is where should they be living within that neighborhood? And I would take the position that they should stay in the neighborhood but be allowed to either exchange properties or provided properties nearby where they can rebuild. Nature is going to take its course, and I think you should not put people back in harm's way.
Well, if you're saying that people should retreat from the water's edge, then you wouldn't build places in Holland and you wouldn't build New Orleans, would you?
Oh, Holland does not do that, nor does New Orleans. As you know, in New Orleans, we move people to different locations. It was heart-wrenching, and Holland has moved people since their last great flood to better areas, more safe, and allowed the water to move through. But that is the best lesson to take.
So are you suggesting there that people should retreat from the water's edge in Brisbane, that they shouldn't be building there?
No, I'm saying there are areas they shouldn't be building in. There are water edge areas that are perfectly safe, and you can build there, and you can build houses structurally along those edges. But there are other areas, as the Dutch have done and as New Orleans has learned, where the water has to continue to flow through so it doesn't back up and create flooding.
What lessons can be learned from something like this? And from your experience, how long has it taken to start to get through the rebuilding process in New Orleans, which, as I said, in parts of it's not finished?
Well, New Orleans is in a very different situation. New Orleans was destroyed. These properties are damaged, some of them are dirty, but they can be cleaned up. The houses in New Orleans were totally collapsed. The infrastructure was totally destroyed. That is not the case in Queensland. So cleaning up is more important. So the most important lesson is, when we clean up, how do we protect, how do we future-proof the area so that we don't have this again? And I think you should have a development authority that starts buying properties, that starts creating channels in areas like they do in Holland to let water run through and make it a safer place to live in the future.
Professor Ed Blakely, thank you.
Thank you.